Have you ever been in a rush to get somewhere? You get into the car, you start driving, and you get red light after red light after red light. But here's the thing, traffic lights can actually be played if you know how to. So if you stick to the end of the video, you're going to learn how to hit green lights so consistently, you're going to think everyone else is driving wrong. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be talking about is riding the green wave. So when it comes to traffic lights, not all of them are random. A lot of them are actually timed together. This timing is called the green wave. So what this means is if you're driving the speed limit, the system is going to try and get as many green lights for you as possible. So you probably had this before where you're just kind of driving smoothly, not aggressively, you don't really care if you're going to get to a destination on time or not, and you just get like 5 or 6 green lights in a row. This is exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the green wave. And the funny thing is, when you want to get somewhere quick on time and you're in a hurry, you always end up with red lights. This is because you throw yourself off sync and you're not driving at a consistent speed. What happens is that you speed up in between lights and throw yourself off sync. This causes you to get more red lights than actually green lights. So to conclude this point, what you want to do is the next time you're in a 50-kilometer zone or 50 miles an hour zone, drive at a consistent speed and try to drive with other cars. If you do this, I guarantee you're going to get a lot more green lights than the red lights. The next point is going to be stopping at the right spot at a traffic light. Have you ever had a situation where you're just sitting at a red light and it's taking forever and you literally think the lights may be glitched or something happened to them where they're just not working properly? This is actually not the traffic light's fault. This is your fault because you're not driving close enough to the traffic light. I would say probably 90% of traffic lights have an underground sensor that detects when a car drives over it. This is the line I'm talking about right here, just before the traffic light. It's usually like a magnetic sensor that detects that there's a car above it. So if you don't drive close enough to the line, you're not going to make it detect that there's a car. Therefore, you're just going to be sitting there at a red light. The next point we're going to be talking about is taking advantage of night driving. You definitely felt the difference between driving at night and day. The traffic lights are always a lot more greener and you can get from point A to B a lot faster. This is because the traffic lights turn from timing mode to demand mode. What this means is that the lights don't work in kind of like a fixed cycle like they do during the day. What happens at nighttime is that traffic lights actually detect that there's a car in front of it and it's gonna turn green. And this is important going back to the previous point. If you don't drive close enough to the sensor, it's not going to detect you and you're just going to be standing there for much longer. So to make sure you avoid the most amount of red lights as possible when driving during the night, you want to make sure you drive close enough to the traffic light so the sensor picks you up. If you pull up to the traffic light far enough, it's not going to detect you and you're just going to be waiting on the red light. Sticking to main roads is another way of getting a lot more green lights than reds. This is because main roads are programmed to prioritize green lights for traffic. There's a lot more cars on main roads than side roads, for example. So it's engineered in a way to prioritize green lights for you and make them last longer. And on the flip side, the side roads are not programmed in any way to make you go through traffic faster because there's obviously a lot less cars there. So you're just going to be sitting there on reds a lot more often than if you picked the main road. This is important because, for example, in my city, there's 2 ways to get to the city center. There's the side road and there's the main road. Even if the GPS on your phone shows you that it's a quicker route, you're most likely going to get to point B a lot faster using the main roads because of the engineered system. So next time you have the option of picking a side road or a main road, try the main road and I guarantee you're going to get to point B a lot faster if you were going to take the side road. A lot of people actually don't know this and get stuck in traffic a lot more often. And also a very important tip here is to drive usually behind a car because traffic lights are actually a lot more likely to turn green if it sees a bunch of cars in front of it. So sticking in groups of cars is going to be a lot more beneficial for you. The next point here is going to be driving smoothly. So driving smoothly nearly always beats people who stop and go. So what do I mean by this? This goes back to point number 1 where you want to keep a consistent speed. So for example, if you're let's say 20 or 30 meters before the traffic light and you can see it's green, you don't want to slam the throttle and speed up just to try to make it. This will actually make you catch more red lights than if you weren't going to do that. So next time you're approaching a traffic light from a distance, you want to keep the exact same pace. Because what happens is, if you speed up, you usually end up with the red light anyway, And the only thing you're doing, you get more wear on your brakes and you end up using a lot more fuel than if you were not going to do that. So for example, here I see a green light. I'm not going to speed up, even if there wasn't a car ahead of me. I'm not going to speed up just to try and make the green light. I'm just going to keep a consistent speed. And I guarantee you this way, you're going to hit a lot more green lights while driving.